Hey everybody, welcome to Real United States, and we are really in the heart of DC right now. I'm actually just kitty corner from the United States Capitol building, right here on the 300 block of Pennsylvania Avenue. And this is in fact a very beautiful sculpture, which is a really huge thing if you think about how much area it takes up. Right here on Pennsylvania Avenue is a statue in tribute to Major General George Gordon Meade, which is why it says Meade in great big letters at the bottom here, in case you wondered why. It's not about the beverage, it's about George Gordon Meade, right? So Meade, for those of you who aren't familiar with the name, is, well, he was a war hero, but I mean, he was most notably known for being the general who defeated Robert E. Lee at the Battle of Gettysburg, which obviously was probably the most famous, hugest, and greatest loss of life of any of the battles of the Civil War. And 50,000 men died in the Battle of Gettysburg. Well, Meade was the one who led the Union campaign successfully to a conclusion there. Now, so you'd have thought that, well, okay, I mean, this is a pretty significant thing. He was a hero, that right after the war, they'd have built a statue to him. Well, you know, the thing about DC is there's only two things that matter in DC, and that's money and politics. And Meade was not very well liked by either Lincoln or Grant, or his other fellow officers for that matter. So there was no statue built in his honor. And it wasn't until 1910 that people in Pennsylvania said, hey, this guy who's from Pennsylvania, you know, was a national hero. It's time we built a statue to him. So they started a commission. It took from 1910 until 1927 to get the money together, to get the approvals, because they gave him a lot of pushback about you got to get it approved, so they had to get the designs. In 1915, it took 5 years for him to finally select a sculptor, a fellow by the name of Charles Grassley, who ended up being awarded this contract. Grassley, incidentally, received $85,000 for his commission to make this piece. That's a lot of money in 1915. I mean, a lot of money. But if you think about the size, the magnitude, and the intricacy of this, it's not, and it took him like 10 years to make it, it's not really way over the top, you know. That's like $8,500 a year. So anyway, the whole project came to $400,000. Again, that may not sound like a huge amount of money. That's about the price of a pretty upscale house nowadays. But in 1927, when this is completed, that was a lot of money. Now, when it was unveiled, the unveiling was actually done, literally unveiling, you know, pulling a sheet off of it, by Meade's daughter, Henrietta. And she was escorted to this soiree by none other than Ulysses S. Grant III. So it was quite the deal. The Army band played the Star-Spangled Banner. There was cannons that were fired off. It was a big deal when it finally came to fruition. So despite the weight that the late general had, it was a big fanfare in his honor when it came to fruition. Sadly, Grassley died in 1929, just 2 years after his masterpiece was unveiled. So that's a little sad, but at least he lived to see it to fruition. Now, you're going to notice a bunch of figures standing around the general, and I'm not going to go into detail about all of them, mostly because I can't remember it. The figures are allegorical. They represent certain characteristics that Grassley felt were inherently necessary for a great leader. Now, on the top by the gold thing, you're going to see what looks like some feathers sticking towards you, and they are. Because on the back side of this is a winged male figure that represents war. Well, that's good because it's behind the general. What you see next to the general, you see a male and a female figure helping him remove his cloak. And that is symbolic, I am told, of removing the cloak of war. You know, the war's over, remove the cloak of war. And the male figure on his proper right is loyalty, and the female figure on his proper left is chivalry. So, and like I say, the other allegorical figures are like fame and military strength, and you know, so they all have a meaning. And you'll see that in a lot of these frescoes and things in DC, is you'll see these allegorical figures that represent, they're human representations of a characteristic. And that's what he's done with this one. It is, as you might suspect, a piece of granite. It's just over 10.5 feet high and just over 9 feet in diameter at the base. So it is a pretty big chunk of stone. And yes, it is segmented. They didn't lift it in here as one big piece. You can see where there's demarcations where it was brought in chunks and lined up and set. But anyway, it is a gorgeous statue that, well, it's been here 91 years and still seems to be in excellent repair. So I think it's a very good likeness of the general from the pictures I've seen. It looks like it. He looks very stately, I can tell you that. So anyway, this is George Meade. Now, you're going, George Gordon Meade, George Meade, Meade. Why does that name sound, that means something, right? Well, it does. It just so happens that there are other things named in General Meade's honor, and one of them is just a little ways north of here, outside of the city of Washington, and that would be Fort Meade. Fort Meade is a military base, obviously, fort. Pretty good sized one, big employer here in the local area, and home to a pretty important group, the National Security Agency, the NSA, are homed at Fort George Gordon Meade. Also there, and not coincidentally, is the National Cryptology Museum, which, as I understand, is open to the public. I don't think it's open for videography or photography, but it is a museum that's open to the public. I'm not quite sure how you get in there. It's the place scares the hell out of me personally, so I don't go up there. But anyway, that is where the NSA is at Fort Meade, which is named in General Meade's honor. So I thought that was kind of an interesting point. Anyway, that's what we have for you today, folks. I hope you enjoyed this trip once again to downtown DC. We just keep finding them, and I hope you're enjoying them. You got questions or comments? Leave them in the comments section down below. I love hearing from all of you. I try to get back to everybody I can. Just stop in and say hi, whatever. It's always nice to hear from everybody. If you're new here, hey, consider picking subscribe and coming along for the adventure, because we got lots more to show you. And as always, folks, well, thank you for watching.